find a piece on your travels. Nowadays, it's so easy. Of course, you can just snap that picture and snap the picture of that tag and send it off to the client. And yes or no, there's another person behind me who wants to buy it. And you can get an answer from around the world pretty quickly, which is great. Welcome to DLN Masterclass. I'm Suzanne Tucker, and I'm delighted to be here today talking to you about shopping for antiques. I've been incorporating antiques into my interiors work for as long as I can remember. And I think the importance of doing that is that it gives a room, it gives a house, it gives an ambiance, a much different sort of soul than simply filling with all brand new things. I grew up in a house that had antiques. Of course, when I was young, I didn't realize that, gee, I'm looking at a beautiful 18th century Italian piece, but I recognized the fact that I was looking at something special and something that was perhaps unusual in their house. And I think, again, that is the uniqueness of finding pieces that resonate for you individually, you as the client, you as the designer. I think that really what sets apart the average decorator, let's say, or the average home from the more unique. I recognize that today, learning about furniture and about styles of furniture is no longer taught in design schools. I was very fortunate. I had a year-long course at university in the history of world furniture. My textbook, which I still today have, this was it, World Furniture. And I still have it, I refer to it. It teaches you about the different styles and why they evolve. It's politics, it's wars, it's all sorts of things in history. So that sort of history and provenance is something that you need to educate yourself about. The more you look and the more you find things, the more you're going to be educated. Years ago when I was in Paris, we went into the very famous, fabulous antiques dealer, Kugel. We were looking at a suite of furniture. And the price tag back then was over $1 million. And the person I was with said, "Why in the world are we looking at this? This is so expensive." That is not a bad question to ask. It's a very good question to ask of a dealer. And that's how you learn. Why was that so expensive? It was unique. It was assigned. They were all signed pieces. They were obviously collector's pieces. But that's how you discover, and that's how you learn, and that's how you know more. You have to know where to go. So there are fairs or antiques shows, art shows all over the world that are happening. So going to those shows and supporting those dealers is hugely important in terms of keeping this industry going. And yourself, keeping your eye developing, keeping your clients educated, keeping yourselves educated. Equally, educating ourselves is important to educate your clients. Find out what they like. They may not know. They may not know what resonates with them. I've had a client who, long ago, when I asked what color was his favorite color, he actually didn't really know. He'd never been sort of allowed or given permission to explore that. I asked him to bring me his 6 favorite ties. So we talked about his ties. And at the end of it, I said, "Would you like to know what your favorite color is?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "It's blue." And I said, "And you like geometry, not curves." So it was an interesting exercise, but what it was all about was really getting into that person's head and seeing what resonates with them. Trusting your dealers is an important aspect of knowing what you're selling, knowing what you're putting into an interior. Work with dealers who are trustworthy, whose eye is similar to yours, but also who can answer those tough questions like, why is this so expensive? Or what makes this from the 1920s versus the 1820s? Or why is this vintage and not antique? Those are the things that the reputable dealers, the good dealers around the world, love nothing more than to answer those questions. They will talk for hours on their pieces. It's their passion. It's what they love. they will come back to you and they'll say, you were looking for a table that was a different size. I have one that's coming in. I'll send you a picture. Let me know if you have interest. That happens to me on a daily basis, multiple times, from dealers around the world. And I love it because I get to see it first. There's nothing wrong with having ignorance about these things. You can't be all and know all. Don't be afraid to, I'm not going to say look ignorant, but to perhaps reveal your own vulnerability. Tell me why this is so great. And I think those are the important questions to ask. Again, there's nothing wrong with saying, can you do better on the price? Dealers buy things to hold them and to sell them, and they want to place them with the right people to keep their inventory moving and keep new things coming in. They love nothing more than placing it in someone's home. One of the things that comes up in this industry now, particularly, is the cost of shipping. And that is something that you cannot skimp on when you're shipping antiques. Reproduction furniture is one thing, you can order another one, but an antique is a different story. And, it's one of a kind. And you want to make sure you use reputable shippers and really good packers, and that you've covered it for the value, because it is irreplaceable if it's a one of a kind piece. It's a slippery slope when shopping as a designer for antiques because there's so much out there, and as you develop your eye, you find the pieces that are right and that really just sing to you, and the temptation to buy it and, I'll find a home for it is always there. It's sort of the decorator's nightmare, ultimately, that we have a bunch of things in our storage spaces and warehouses that, just sit there. Like the art world, everyone wants to find the next Rothko walking down Madison Avenue and that unknown artist, and you've bought it, and guess what? In 30 years' time, it's worth $40 million. Well, that's pretty rare. I do think there's certain things that are undervalued now, and I do think it's probably the era of brown furniture. When and where and how brown furniture became a dirty word, dirty two words, is kind of a mystery. Brown furniture can be absolutely beautiful. And it got a bad rap a few years ago that, boring brown furniture. Hardly. I do think right now is a great time to be buying brown furniture. I'm talking anything with a stain to it. Okay, so whether it's a dark stain, ebony stain, mahogany, walnut, again, look for the lines. And do not fill your entire room with one thing, a brown furniture, for example. Then nothing looks special. It's just like if you look back in the 50s and fashion. And it was the era when you had to match your shoes to your pocketbook, to your tweed coats and your pillbox hat, and everything matched. But for now, that looks dated. So think of that with furniture, think of that with interiors. You want to mix it up. There are no hard and fast rules. Feel free to break them. But you definitely want to mix up those finishes. And I think right now it's a great time to be buying those beautiful brown furniture pieces that have beautiful patinas. They're absolutely magical pieces and will really make your room sing. But you can pick up some great, great buys right now. And I do think they will go up in value, but you have to be patient.